Well, this is more stuff on the general subject of the purpose of life. It's basically a response video to Matt. And, another video by the Mystic. I'll probably post a link over there. It's interesting. It's just too bad we're having this, I think, very worthwhile discussion, and we're all none of us getting enough views to really make it worth it. I mean, we're not reaching enough people with the conversation, and it's a conversation I think the whole human race needs to have. So anyway, the other part of it is maybe we ought to, create a community channel or something, and we just post our arguments on this one subject to that channel. But anyway, if nothing else, this is a good test of our capacity to articulate our various theories, our belief systems, whatever, to see if we're capable of persuasive arguments, see if there's a capacity to get anywhere. Because if we have to concede that we're basically all open-minded, and we're all scientifically literate, and it's you expect failure when you're arguing with a 4-year-old, but you don't expect failure in when you are arguing to an audience that can understand what you're saying. And so it is kind of a good test for all of us to sit here and try to figure out what's missing, what we're not getting to. And so I can only go by Matt's video. It's it's a lot of stuff, such and such who wrote a book and says blah blah blah, and another guy wrote in a book and says this and that, and they're not saying anything that's straight line direct enough for me to argue with. I mean, it's all this hocus pocus, life is too triangular to be hypothesized into a trilithogram. I mean, it's just I'm sorry, it's crap. It's just way too many words. I mean, there's a line from an old the movie Amadeus, the Mozart story, and there's a king, and the king says to Mozart, too many notes, in criticizing his music. And he explains that the human ear can only perceive so many notes, and so you got too many notes, they're superfluous, they don't make any sense because the brain can't perceive them. And that's too many words, Matt. Just too many words. They wrap around convoluted words. You've got to spell it out a little straight. I mean, maybe I'm not getting it, but it just sounds like babble to me. So anyway, the one argument I could glean from your video was that a sticking point for you is that this natural system, energy doesn't have any motivation to become more complex. You're even suggested it makes energy more vulnerable to become matter. And I would argue that it is in the design of energy. It is basically, as soon as it shoots out into space, it begins to condensate. It is a natural function. It has these gravitational forces, you could call them. I mean, obviously they're on a different level, they're forces of attraction, if you want to call them that. I mean, we don't think of, it's a scary word, attraction, because you will imply that it means some deliberate act. And so to me, gravitational is, makes it more obvious, because obviously we don't associate gravity with any emotion. Gravity just does its thing, and that's all energy's doing. It's got this built-in mechanism that lends it towards associations. Energy wants to associate with energy, with other energy. And the same is true with matter and molecules, elements. They still retain this capacity to combine. The attraction may not be as strong. They may not pull each other towards each other, but when they do associate, they can combine quite easily. Their mechanism encourages that combination, that combining. And then once you get to the stage of chemical complexity where you have a reproducing compound, a life form, then a new mechanism takes charge, and that's the natural selection process. And it is inherently to that compound's benefit to become more complex. I mean, complexity makes it, although it is more vulnerable in physical structure because of the complexity, it is stronger because of its capacity to adapt and form itself to an environment and survive. And so that is survival of the fittest, that is natural selection, and things will tend to become more complex. I say there's a limit to that complexity. I say there's a natural absolute that you reach, so to speak, or a point where, like the speed of light, as you get closer to it, your own mass will make it impossible for you to reach, that absolute speed. And I think the same thing happens with complexity in the living world, that a certain amount is good, it's encouraged, it makes you wiser and more capable in your environment, but there's a point where the complexity ends. And I think, obviously there's a level of sophistication in the organisms around us, some of them maybe even 1 billion years old, like some insects, and the complexity, the raw complexity, probably isn't any more dramatic than our own. They have a central nervous system, they have organs, they have structure, and and then, like I said, there's all these stages. And then I've also made the point that intelligence is what separates us from these animals. And intelligence is essentially another life form. It is like the stage between compound and reproducing compound. There's a stage between this living organism and then intelligence, because intelligence grows by its own rules. It has its own natural selection process. It has its own because it's not in the individual. It's built on years and years of learning and acquiring understanding about the world we live in. And so that intelligence grows by a new set of rules, and that's a new bit of complexity, but it is not complexity directly related to the physical structure. We can have the same physical structure, and without education we are morons, we are animals. It is not innate intelligence. It is separate from us. We merely possess it. We don't own it. We rent it. I don't know how to exactly put it, but it is another life form. It is another level of complexity, distinct from the rules. A different set of rules apply because it is distinct. So anyway, I think that does, I think I've explained that. So I mean, I can only take it, like I said, an argument at a time. There is a natural tendency in the structure of the material universe that encourages association. If you want to call that complexity, fine, but the association, the combining, the condensing of matter. It's a natural process, and there's no need for to wonder at how it's possible. It seems, I don't know what your stumbling block is. I mean, 4 billion years is an incredibly long time for matter to achieve, the great ape. And it's only been a short time that intelligence has been alive and intelligence has been evolving. And so we really don't know its exact course. We don't know its destiny. But in terms of life, I think we've peaked. Complexity-wise, we'll get different. We could look funnier. We could do this. We could do that. But there's not going to be a huge jump